What are the key causes for concern?
Well, for me, there was a fascinating study published earlier this year by Professor Bissembender of the Arizona State University. And what that showed is that in the past 90 years, if you took all the wealth creation in US stock markets, 86 companies were responsible for half of it. It's 86 companies in 90 years. And yet we live in a world where everybody talks about mean reversion. Take recycling money out of winners into areas that haven't done as well. And it strikes me that there's a potential to destroy huge amounts of value for clients if people stick with this mantra of mean reversion and aren't prepared to accept that some things are changing really very rapidly.
Wow. And what are your key causes for concern?
Well, Annabelle, I would argue that there's, through time, been a rotation from value to growth and back to value. And actually, it's been an extended period of strong performance for growth. I don't think that means it will always be a strong period of performance for growth. I think the clock will revert back in favour of value at some point. Now, what's the trigger for that? I would argue that Bitcoin is an example of the euphoria that at the moment you can see towards speculative investments. And I would argue that that could be coincident with a reduction in the valuation on many of the most highly valued growth stocks out there.
I know I was alarmed the other day when I saw practically the whole of the Times on Bitcoin. Andrew, what are your key concerns?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of Schumpeterian creative destruction going on at the economic and sector level around the world, which long-term should be beneficial for economies, but in the short term it produces a lot of corporate casualties, it produces adverse political trends, as we've seen on both sides of the Atlantic. So there's always a risk that in the short term something that's going to be helpful in the long term produces unforeseen consequences, and that's something to be aware of, although I'm not obsessed about it.